Update during the chair's report.
I'm saying,
Yeah, perfect.
All right, we are live.
All right. I'm used to saying good afternoon, but good morning. Or for those of you that couldn't sleep with the rain, worrying about water in their basements or places that water shouldn't be. Hopefully everybody was dry and didn't have too many issues. I know many folks did across the community, so hopefully that can get resolved for them quickly and not too much of an impact. But it is the Wednesday, April 1st, 2026 meeting of the Housing and Economic Development Committee. It's 10:02. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do have Adam Vinson online, who is able to participate in the discussion, but due to our remote attendance policy is unable to vote. So Adam, feel free to engage with the committee, but know that we will just be taking a vote here in chambers. Do we have any changes to the agenda? No? Any public comment? Okay. Minute approval. We have the minutes from March 4th, 2026. Is there any, could I have a mover for those, please? And a second? Moved by John, seconded by Iris. Any changes, discussion, corrections, edits, adjustments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. So those are approved. For the chair's report, gosh, I feel a little bit out of practice. I feel like there's been several weeks between this one and the last meeting. I'm trying to find my groove here for a minute. We have kicked off the Tompkins County minimum wage study with our partners at Cornell University, who are helping to conduct the study. I'm going to let Legislator Packman hopefully chime in here as well for the chair's report, but I do want to thank members of the community that came out to the initial kickoff meeting, also members of county staff that were there, and some of our economic development partners and labor organizers and various interested parties. It was quite a turnout. It was a robust discussion, and I think it provided a good kickoff, hopefully to the study. I do, as I continue to reiterate, this is not a living wage study. This is a conversation on what the impacts of a minimum wage in Tompkins County, different from New York State minimum wage, could mean, and what the potential impacts might be to all affected parties. Try to say it that way to not make it about labor or business or vice versa. We really want this to be an open and honest dialogue and discussion with all affected parties, from our rural workers to our downtown workers to our nonprofits to our small and medium-sized businesses, our large employers, labor advocates, whatever the case may be. We want to make sure that this process is inclusionary, and if folks are interested, to go to the Tompkins County website, type in minimum wage study, and it should pop right up with different information. But there is a number of convenings that I would encourage members of our committee and members of the legislature to participate in as listeners, so that we can hear firsthand from those that are engaging with this group, and then know that this group here will be the recipient of some regular updates by the research committee as they have information to update us on. So that's the mechanism there. Iris, if I missed anything on the minimum wage study, feel free to chime in, but also I know you had attended an event recently and had an update for us as well, so I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. The minimum wage convening, the first one was great. I think there were 7 legislators in attendance. Hopefully we can have more subsequent ones, since I think they're primarily being done for our benefit. So we should encourage our colleagues to attend. And I think there was strong representation from the business community, both downtown Ithaca, Lansing, some rural, like agricultural businesses, as well as manufacturing. So we heard a lot from them about concerns mainly about what it could mean. I think there was also a good question that legislator Pillar raised around what numbers in people's minds when they're thinking about a higher minimum wage, because we actually haven't set a number for the study. So I think a lot of people were, as you said, defaulting to assuming they meant the living wage, which for this year I think is $24.82 an hour. But that isn't necessarily what is being studied, right? It's just something higher than the $16. So there was discussion around valuing benefits. So is there a way to capture the value of healthcare benefits, for example, that employers provide, and use that as part of the accounting, because it is so costly, and a lot of employers that pay on the lower end that spoke up said that, that would imperil, if they had to raise wages, it would imperil the benefits provisions. So that's something to consider. I think people also asked about whose voices were missing, or what were missing topic areas from the currently scheduled discussion, and some of the categories that people talked about: large employers such as big boxes and Cornell. The Black community specifically was another piece mentioned, the overlap with the proposed Just Cause legislation in the city, seniors, small businesses, youth employment, tipped workers, and then manufacturing. So those are some key categories that people wanted to see more depth in. Then the other event that I attended last Wednesday, the 25th, was the New York State Department of Labor Southern Tier Regional Business Services Team meeting. And that was a great meeting. There was an update from the regional commissioner of labor, and then the primary presentation was from the folks working on the Southworks project. So we got some updates there, including that they're breaking ground in September on 230 housing units. The plan there is 40% will be market rate, 40% will be at 100% AMI, and 20% will be considered affordable. These will not be single family homes. These will be multifamily residences. This will be in I believe, the city of Ithaca. So the Southworks project crosses the line from the city to the town of Ithaca. The sort of uphill, the town of Ithaca part, they may be building some row homes there, but no single family homes. I think originally there had been a proposal for possibly single family homes, but those will be also multifamily complex. And then let's see, they also talked about there will be childcare on site for particularly prioritizing for the participants in their training programs, their workforce training programs. They're going to be working on connecting the Gateway Trail. There's a bike and hiking path that runs past it. So once they connect that, then you'll be able to get to all the state parks without ever leaving the bike path, which is pretty cool. And then they've had a lot of arts engagement, artists in residence, working with them. I think they said Harry Littell was doing portraits of former factory workers, interviewing folks who had worked there when it was Morse Chain. Cool. And then they're doing portraits of them. There's going to be some kind of murals and art exhibits as part of the space. Someone asked, what are some of the asks of the project for the community? And they said they're definitely looking for state level financing, as well as any private financing for, this sort of spaces that they're looking at. The business spaces they're building out will be 10,000 square feet or more, and they're going to be renovating those as they have tenants for the space. So right now, Found is the only tenant, but they're doing great. I don't know if you all have visited yet, but it's, I think, more than triple the space of what they had at Cherry Street. So they're really happy that space. They're also looking at the 75% local labor requirement and how are they going to meet that for their construction. So that's another consideration that I think directly ties to the work of this committee. I think that's kind of the main recap from that. It was really interesting.
Great. Well, thank you for attending. And again, thank you for the reminder to encourage our fellow legislators to get out and engage in those convenings as they become available and publicized. I have no other additional information for chair's report, so we'll move over to Corsa Comfy for county administrator's report. And I also see Bridget Nugent here, maybe just for moral support.
Yes, we don't have any additional report. All the information on the convening are available on the county's website. Okay. Also, residents or workers or employers have ability to also post questions and request for additional information all through the website. So please, if anybody needs details or want to share thought process or any ideas, please just visit the website, submit those information, and we will get them over to the group.
Great. Well then, next up, Kate, you're on. We have, under housing, we have a report and discussion. This is going to be an overview of the Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services, also known as INHS. This is ID number 13997, and we have with us Kate De La Garza, who is the Executive Director of INHS, Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services. And so I will turn it over to you, Kate. The floor is yours. I know you have some slides to share, but would you like to finish your slides? Would you like engagement as we go? What is your preference as a presenter?
Oh, I always prefer engagement as we go.
Okay.
And I know this is repetitive for some folks. I was here last year, or perhaps the year I first got hired. I'm in my third year now, which
It's 2 years ago, I think.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time flies. So I brought the whole slide deck, but I can move quickly and we can jump in, whenever there are questions. I'd love that.
Great. So if members of the committee have questions, just pop your hand up, or if our staff here as well want to engage, feel free to hop on over to the table, and everybody's welcome in the discussion. So Kate, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. So will you pull up the slides, Jordan?
Did you happen to receive a email stating on how to join via Zoom?
No, maybe.
I would not have your slides. I know that you were working with Taylor on your slides.
I thought when I sent them to Taylor, they'd be loaded up, but maybe I'm wrong.
Is there a way we can share the packet?
Yeah, is it in the packet?
Megan, would you be able to maybe help?
Oh, Megan to the rescue.
Yes, thank you, Megan.
Thanks, Megan. I saw you on the ready.
Thank you. Oh, this exemplifies my month of March, really. But now I realize it is May, so do over.
April.
It's only April.
I mean April. Oh my God.
Kate, you really are.
Wow. Okay. As you all know, March was a really wild month here, as you all know. So I will just say a couple of things. I am officially in my third year, which feels like I'm both still new and now getting my feet under me. Yeah, is it gonna echo if I talk? Oh, okay. So a couple things, acknowledging that we are in Tompkins County, which is the birthplace of INHS. We started on the south side exclusively, doing mostly, if not exclusively, all home ownership activities, renovating older buildings. I think we've done 110 loans alone on Cleveland Avenue, for example, right? That was our beginning. And then we spread to the north side and then citywide, and now all of Tompkins County and the 6 surrounding contiguous counties. So this is always my test. Tioga, Tompkins, Cortland, Chemung, Cayuga, Sigler, and Seneca. So we are both a very urban and a very rural responding nonprofit agency that really tries to meet the need for affordable housing across all different types of communities in our service area. One of the things I've learned most in my work here over the last 2 years is that most people are only familiar with a slice of us. Some people are really familiar with that work that began on the south side in homeownership. Some people are only familiar with our rental housing portfolio. And still some only touch us, for example, with repair work. We have a robust, decades-long minor and major repair program for predominantly elderly and disabled folks so that they can stay in their homes over time, especially when they're coming back from the hospital or rehabilitation for an illness and they need grab bars or a fixed set of steps to get in their house or a ramp if they are no longer mobile. So we do a wide array of work within the affordable housing space, and we are absolutely the homegrown nonprofit in the region that does that. And I wanted to be here today with so many new members of the legislature so that I was introducing ourselves again formally, but also to serve all the time, here formally and informally as, someone who can help answer questions, tackle new ideas. I'm always doing that with Megan and her team and folks in the city around innovations in affordable housing, which we really do try to pride ourselves on here at INHS. And I know that is a mouthful, so I do try to say just INHS as often as I can.
Kate, how much does your organization interact with other governments, the other surrounding counties? I feel like Tompkins is home, so we get to see you quite a bit.
Yeah.
But what's the level of interaction across your other municipal partners?
Yeah, so let me say that we are 50 years old this year. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary, and if you've been on our website or our socials, you've seen we're telling a story a week around that. We are going to have a big gathering in the fall. Okay. Yay. You're the best. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
And so this is definitely home base, right, where we're headquartered. We more and more, I'm trying to replicate, the foundation of relationships we have in Tompkins and Ithaca proper in our entire service area. So, I spent a couple of days in Montour Falls in Sigler County in December with the mayor there. We are often up in and outside of Auburn a lot. That's a huge growth area for us. Cortland is not somewhere where we have a rental property yet, but we are talking a lot with Cortland because of the Micron effect, right? Mm-hmm. They are definitely trying to get ahead of and plan for that more than ever. So I would say it's the challenge of our next 50 years. Is not only how do we continue to carry on the legacy of Lucy Brown and Tace Van Court in Ithaca and Tompkins County, those are our co-founders, but how do we then replicate that impact and meet the need for affordable housing in the balance of our service areas? And that really does depend on building those relationships in that area. We do have a lot of work also in Tioga County on the home ownership, repair, manufactured home side. So it's a little bit different in every county depending on funding, and that is going to be the challenge moving forward. Not just because it's more rural, but also because less population often means less funding for the programs that we do. So just quickly, we have 4 business lines. Property management, we own and manage all of our own rental properties. So that is nearly 700 units, 700 apartments across 4 counties. Sigler, so we have a property in Watkins Glen with the Housing Authority there. Just outside of Auburn in Cayuga County, 2 properties, well 3 really, in Seneca County, and then all the way up to Seneca Falls. And then the majority of our portfolio, almost 500 units, are in Tompkins County. We develop all of our own stuff, right? So I've got a really amazing and nimble 4-person real estate development team that develops not only for sale housing that we sell into our community housing trust, but also all of our rental properties. And they in property management are in constant conversation about how to refine and make that product better and better and more responsive to our residents' needs. Manufactured housing is a growth area for us. We bought a park out in Trumansburg, as you know, formerly Aubel's Trailer Park, now renamed Compass Manufactured Homes. And that's 150 pads, 90-ish are filled, and we're now backfilling the next 15 over the next 18 months, and then hopefully to get it full over the next 5 years. And homeownership, which is that down payment assistance, HUD counseling, post-purchase classes, minor and major repair. And that repair work predominantly does serve senior citizens and disabled folks, all predominantly low income. I think the average income of our minor repair client is about $25,000 a year. So this just reviews that a little bit for homeownership. One thing I want to point out is the $20,000 of down payment assistance that we provide people now to buy homes really doesn't effectively work in Ithaca anymore, and more all of Tompkins County. What we see is people taking that $20,000, and if they're using it on the open market, they are going to points north and south, so Elmira, Portland, Dryden, or points rural in a manufactured home. Here we go again with the minor repair summaries. And so you'll see that the programs are only in the counties in which we have funds to serve those counties. So Chemung, Sigler, Tompkins, and Tioga for minor repair, and major repair is almost exclusively Tompkins County.
And just where do those funds for those counties come from?
The city of Ithaca, Tompkins County. We also have aggressively pursued foundation funding over time as you know, as we sort of ride the wave of public funding availability. A big funder of ours in Tioga, for example, is Tioga Downs Foundation. They have substantially supported us over the last 3 years, so that really has allowed us to lean into Tioga County. And we have several grant applications out right now, one to include expanding work into Cayuga.
Iris?
Just to clarify, so you're saying that outside of Tompkins County, the other counties are funded through private grants or?
Largely, and state funding.
State funds.
Yeah, where we can access it, yeah.
Within Tompkins, do we also get state funds, or is it?
Yes, I believe so, yeah. So, you know, we have also long served as a consultant, not just developing our own properties, but for example, we worked to help TCIDA develop the Amici House, Lakeview and their property on Meadow. Where there's mission alignment and the opportunity, we will definitely help others to develop, as we were helped when we were beginning by Pathstone, who is, I should mention, we are a NeighborWorks organization. I'm sorry I didn't say that up front. One of the oldest and best performing NeighborWorks organizations. That's a network of 250 national nonprofits that were chartered around the same time we were created in 1976. And we are consistently rated exemplary within that network. And the interesting thing about NeighborWorks is that everybody does something a little different. Some NeighborWorks organizations only do childcare, for example, and run Head Starts. Or only do low-interest business loans to you know, new businesses, small businesses. Those are probably the only two things we don't do. We do everything else, having 4 business lines, and that is a little bit rare for even the NeighborWorks network. Although I will say we are now expert in building childcare facilities. Our 4th is in the works on our senior project downtown in Ithaca. All of our projects are extremely green built, if that's even a concept, extremely. Passive house and geothermal was what we embraced on our project out in Trumansburg. I'll show you that in a second, Village Grove. And it's probably the only project right now I feel comfortable with my residents not being utility burdened, because they are not subject to NYSEG rates in the same way that all of our other projects are. Okay, I wanted to just take a short diversion here because of, you know, a lot of what's been going on in our community recently. I wanted to make sure everybody understood that when we are building rental housing, which is a really robust line of business for us, and we're rapidly approaching 1,000 units in our portfolio. And some of those units are HUD buildings, old HUD buildings that we've renovated. The majority of all new affordable rental housing in this country is built by the IRS through the low-income housing tax credit. It is not the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It is not other private funding. It is tax credit equity through the IRS. So I really wanted to drive that point home, because what that means is that every single building that we own is subject, or rather a partnership. Oh, okay.
I think we're skipping your
We're skipping? Oh, bummer. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Did I already pass Village Grove?
You
Probably
did.
not. Yeah, I did. There's Village Grove. It's so beautiful. Out in Trumansburg, which, thank you so much through the CHDF, you were a funder of, as well as our tax credit equity. As you can see, we have a capital stack of 10 funders on Village Grove, which is now the norm in our world, which is many, many thousands of hours of work have to go into securing every one of those funds and structuring them as loans into the project. So the IRS, under Reagan's tax reform in 1986, the low-income housing tax credit was created. It's one of the longest running and most bipartisan of funding sources, largely because it is built into the tax code, which is starkly different than an entitlement such as food stamps or Section 8, so it's not subject to the yearly whims of appropriation or budget negotiation. And therefore, it's a very refined funding source and industry to build. So I can just touch this, Megan, and go to the next slide. So if you have not come to tour or to the opening of Village Grove, anytime you want to come visit it, it is a remarkable project that involves a new childcare facility for the Trumansburg Nursery School, 46 units of rental housing, and now 10 homes for sale that are all occupied. I'm so excited to say, as of last month, every single townhome is sold into our community housing trust. And the surrounding 9 lots owned by Sundial Development, Claudia Brenner, the architect who we purchased the land from, are beginning to sell as well. 2 of those 9 lots have sold and 1 will begin to being developed soon. Yes.
So what is the ownership format long-term for this project? You were saying you're selling off parcels, who owns them?
So Trumansburg Nursery School leases from us. We built the building with public funds and structured a very low rent lease for long-term sustainability for them. They doubled the sizes of their classes and they doubled their workforce. So amazing. So we own that as part of our LLC. We own with the tax credit investor, the rental housing. And then our community housing trust is structured that we own the land and we sell the improvements.
Okay.
So those houses, 2 bedrooms sold for about $165, 3 bedrooms sold for $185. So half the amount it costs to build them. And we get that subsidy from the state.
Okay.
Predominantly to offset those sales prices.
And are those subject to some kind of a deed restriction so that they can only sell a certain?
It's a shared equity program,
Okay.
which I know is not for everybody, but
No,
given
I know
the
people.
fact that the average income of those folks, the last 14 that we sold was about $56,000, a brand new product that doesn't need work is non-existent in Tompkins County for someone who makes that yearly.
Yeah.
And so what it does is it structures a 2% per year increase, and then you are taxed based on that restricted value, not on the market rate value. So your tax burden is also very predictable. So very, very affordable for those households. We're proud to say we're housing one of the local village policemen.
Oh, I love that.
A great-grandmother and a grandmother live there, first homes they've ever owned.
Wow.
Just really, I can't wait to start sharing the stories of this group of folks. 42% folks of color who purchased with us. So just really an outstanding group of sales that we've had here recently.
That's incredible. What is the mortgage structure for them? Are they paying, is it subsidized or?
So typically, we are not a first mortgage lender.
Yeah.
Many other groups like us are. Home headquarters out of Syracuse is the most analogous. They do first mortgage lending. We do down payment assistance, and we marry that up with lenders in the community. So a lot of our folks get a first mortgage from alternatives or from M&T. They tend to be conventional loans, and they're all familiar with our structure. So we, over the last 20 years, have developed really refined relationships with every lender in the community. So everybody has choice, and we say, hey, go make your choice and meet with these lenders and choose the best deal that you can get. Some of those also come with down payment assistance. So our goal is to get somebody into their CHT with a lot of equity right out the gate between our down payment assistance of $20,000 and potentially any other that they can find. And then have the lowest mortgage possible and the lowest tax burden possible so that it's a long-term stability for those families.
That's great. And if you ever wanted to organize a tour for us,
Oh, I
I'm
would
sure
love
there
to.
would be a lot of us.
This is my favorite. I'm doing one today. This is my favorite thing, is to give tours of Village Grove. And it
Okay,
was,
great.
just so everybody knows, it was 10 years in the making. This was not an easy project to
Yeah.
do. We built $3 million plus of infrastructure, which we deeded back to the village of Trumansburg. It was it was a long process, but I believe everyone is very pleased now to see how it turned out.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Did you
Go
have a
ahead,
question?
Mike.
I understand, like, if somebody buys the house, then they're paying property taxes on it.
Yeah.
I get all that. What about INHS? Do you, like, so if you own the 46
Yeah.
rental units, do you work out a pilot to pay tax? Like,
We
we're
generally.
not for profit, so I.
We are. So we generally, under state statute 581A, there's a reduced tax burden for nonprofit affordable housing, well, for all affordable housing, whether it's owned by a private or because our rents are permanently lower.
Right.
So we do pay taxes, and every one of our projects pay taxes. We only have one that has a pilot. That was, I think that either was pre the 581A legislation, or I can't remember exactly why it happened. It's in the city of Ithaca. And so that is predominantly the method that we take. And that's by statute, by law. And so that's a misnomer, or a misunderstanding that affordable housing doesn't pay taxes. We do.
That's kind of why I asked, because
Yep.
25 kids in the school district is a lot,
Yep.
so.
Yep, and we've working, with the school district. They were so excited. As you know, Trumansburg was losing children, so to add 30 kids, was very, very impactful and helpful for them moving forward. So we are one block from the school, so they all walk to school. It's fabulous.
Okay, real quick, on the federal and state LIHTC,
Yeah.
there's private entities behind those investments,
Yes.
right?
So, well, let me differentiate. So 3 million homes have been built under the LIHTC since 1986. It is a very refined industry at this point that provides a public-private partnership to deliver affordable housing in this country. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. So what I like to tell people is that I never dreamed that I would be expert in Section 42 of the U.S. Tax Code, but this is my job now. And it is some days mind-numbing, the interaction with the IRS. Now, understand that the IRS bases your tax credit equity amount per state. So it's allocated through a state agency in every state, and they run competitions to get the tax credits. This last round from 2025, there were about 80 plus applications, and this is just for 9% tax credits. I'm not going to talk about the other type of tax credits, which Southworks will be using. The 9% tax credits had 80 plus applications, and 19 projects got funded in upstate New York, right? So we're talking 4-1, your chances of getting a project funded. Ours did not get funded in this latest round, our senior project on State Street in Ithaca, which will have a daycare on the first floor. In fact, no projects in Tompkins County got funded this latest round. So it is a very scarce resource of which many people are competing, both private and public and nonprofit agencies. In fact, nationwide, there are more private companies that utilize the tax credit than nonprofits. And it's getting harder and harder to utilize. And so in a lot of ways, the industry is leaning that way for various technical reasons. So we've served 7 million people through this tax credit. The partnerships, when you get an award for tax credits, here we go, goes through Homes and Community Renewal, what we love to call HCR here in New York. They get an allotment and then they hold a competition. We put in an application, say we get an award like we did for our Varna project, which is about to begin construction in the town of Dryden. Last year, that was I think there were were there two Tompkins County awards last year? Varna and CDS on Meadow Street, which is about to start construction as well. I saw them moving dirt the other day, which is great. And so we get the tax credits and then we sell them. We can sell largely the buyers of tax credits. Fannie used to have a big role. They exited the market about 5 years ago. Right now, the buyers of tax credits are predominantly large banks. You can do that direct with them. When I worked for KeyBank, I bought the tax credits on Village Grove. So that was my deal when I was at KeyBank. And That's called a direct investment, right? And you typically get a higher price for your tax credits if you go direct. We, as a nonprofit, have a long-standing relationship with Enterprise Community Partners, which is a nonprofit syndicator of tax credits. They bring largely banks and insurance companies together behind the scenes. They create a fund, and then they go out and largely partner with nonprofits who are mission aligned with Enterprise to sign up those projects. We've done deals with M&T, Key, but predominantly Enterprise. And one of the reasons we have such a good relationship with Enterprise is that they do fund other ancillary lines of business with us, so they are really looking at our whole organization and how to support it, but also they compete in more rural areas. Direct banks generally, this is a stereotype, but generally want to invest heavily in their CRA areas, which tend to be more urban than rural because it's where their branches are located and where their offices are located. CRA is Community Reinvestment Act. So when you do a LIHTC investment, you get a lot of CRA points to pass your exam with the federal government when you're a bank. Insurance companies, also large companies, sometimes Verizon and others will invest in tax credits. It essentially is a one-for-one reduction on your tax liability. So Enterprise will give us, $10 million of equity on a deal, and they'll get that $1 million off their tax liability for 10 years straight. So it's a huge benefit when corporations have a big tax liability. Right now, not so much. And so we see a lot less value in the tax credits. When I closed my last deal in Seattle as a developer, I got $1.13 for a large project I was working on there. On Varna, I think we got 80 cents on the tax credit. So the market has swung because there isn't as much corporate tax liability as there was even 15 years ago, right? So the market turns on the value of the tax credits is how much taxes corporations are paying. So it's a true public-private partnership, which means it's really beloved on both sides of the aisle in DC, and which makes it a very steady funding source. I wanted to show this just so folks understand. This is our typical ownership structure. This is Founders Way downtown. If you look where the Enterprise box is, it says they're the 99.9% owner of the project, okay? And then you look at us and we're 0.01%. Where is it? Right here.
In the middle,
Founders Way LLC. Okay, and we're the sole member of that, right? So it's we at Enterprise own the property. Under that agreement, they own it 99% for 15 years to get their tax credits. We have an agreement called a limited partnership agreement that we sign with our investor, whether it's Enterprise or Key or M&T, that says you will operate the building in these 100 ways. You will collect the rents, you will put the right people in the right units, you will maintain the safety and well-being of the building, you will maintain insurance, you will make sure no fraud occurs. The LPA is about that thick. It's about 120 pages. And this is what, when I was a banker, this is what I knew like the back of my hand. So it is a partnership. And we are only allowed to own and run these buildings to the extent that we maintain that partnership, right? You can think of them as a silent partner, but they are there every year inspecting the building. They are reviewing every file of every lease up we have. And the other layer is that then all goes to the state for their compliance as well. So what I like to tell people is that this is the most heavily monitored, compliance-oriented asset class of real estate in the country because it's overseen by the IRS. And so, and it's a very well developed industry at this point. So we do now own buildings outright. Cedar Creek up on Floral Avenue is 18 years old coming up on. So when you hit 15 years, the investor leaves and we have something called the right of first refusal. We get ownership of that building just for the taxes to transfer the ownership back to us. So we now wholly own Cedar Creek.
So you don't, sorry, you don't have to, there's no payout, there's no, other than the transfer tax?
In modern deals, yes. In the first round of deals 20, 30, 40 years ago, there were onerous payouts, and quickly the industry pivoted, especially for nonprofits, to make sure at exit, just taxes.
And is there any obligation on so let's say Enterprise Neighborhood Impact Fund
Yeah.
3 LLC, to make sure that by year 15, there's not leftover deferred maintenance, you're not getting sort of a rundown building, but in your sort of operating or partnership agreements, is there expectation that the maintenance and investment will remain
Yes.
over that 15-year
That is
period?
one of the things yearly they come and do compliance checks on. So we walk the building, we visit 10 units together, they do an audit of all of our files. We have, when you close a tax credit project, you have an operating reserve and a replacement reserve, and the replacement reserve is an initial funding, and then you fund it per unit per year. And so by the time you exit, ideally, you should have pots of money in both of those accounts that you then take back and use to potentially recapitalize the building.
Got it.
I will say the state just started a new reserve replenishment program because a lot of our buildings have struggled in different ways during COVID for other reasons. And some of our properties, and when I say our, I mean industry-wide. Certainly we have properties like this that deplete the reserves quicker than we anticipated for a variety of reasons. And if we want to get in the weeds about ESHI, supportive housing units, and how those are structured with reserves, that's one of the issues that is constantly being discussed, because in a tax credit project, you're not allowed to access reserves for capital improvements or unit turns for 5 years. So
you have to build the pot before you can.
Yep. And so when you have potentially harder turns, when people either leave or are evicted or, exit a unit, you have to use project capital or organizational capital to do those. And certainly after COVID, one of our struggles as an organization was we didn't have enough staff to turn units as quickly. We've now rectified that, and I'm really happy to say we're north of 95% occupied now, portfolio-wide. But some of those turns can easily be $10,000, $20,000, $25,000. It's really, really tough.
And is there a mechanism, or are there funding streams now available to help organizations such as yours with those additional costs that aren't able to be?
After year 5, there's the reserve replenishment program. We got about $180,000 on our property in Seneca Falls for that because we've had some issues there related to improvements during the first 5 years. And so understand too that in the partnership agreement with your investor, there's something called an operating deficit guarantee, which means that we as an organization, if the project for any reason runs out of money, can't pay staff, can't turn units, we as an organization are committed to using our own capital to make sure that building is healthy.
So your 0.01% brings the money.
There's a lot of skin in the game for 0.01%. Yeah, like there's a lot of commitments that we make to keeping that project whole. And I'll give an example of that. On Founders Way, in our first year of lease up, we did have some struggles learning. It was our first ESHI project. I'll readily admit that. And when I came on, we decided to hire 6 months of 24-hour security to secure the points of entry, right? And then we had HSC doing walks to get people connected who were in our stairwells to services that they needed. That cost us $100,000. And we paid for that out of our organizational reserves because the building couldn't afford it. And that was an imperative for us and for me to maintain the well-being of that building. And it wasn't just that solved the issues we were having. It was multiple things together as a package of solution to make sure all of our residents were safe and our staff were safe.
I think it's important for folks to recognize, and Kate, I think it's good that you've highlighted this, sort of the ongoing and some of the unexpected costs that, traditional, market rate housing may not experience, or, has the rents to support certain operations. You're really, you're making the dollar go a lot further, and sometimes it has a much bigger impact to your organization to try to get the right mix of services and safeguards, et cetera, to, the asset class and the rent level that you're able to collect on.
And the other thing that we did during that time is we hired we're scaling a resident services function. So we have 1.5 FTE of services, one person in Ithaca and a part-time staff up in Cayuga, who help to serve as the connector to whatever help anyone may need who happens to fall into crisis, right? What I have found longstanding, I've been in this industry 25 years, is that my property managers need to collect rent, and they need to make sure work orders are complete, and they need to make sure, files that are this big are processed to rent people up. It's hard to also be the person who says, do you need help finding a job? Do you need help getting food? So we've tried to bifurcate that relationship now. And certainly all my PMs are really good at those conversations by this point. You cannot be a property manager without being part social worker. But the extent to which we now have a dedicated staff person for that is part of the equation as well. Yeah. And that also is, we've raised grant money to do it, but long-term, that's an organizational cost. Our buildings are not yet able to absorb that cost. And to be frank, HCR, the state doesn't allow you to underwrite that cost in buildings. It's an outside cost. And so we are trying to figure out a sustainable way to reduce eviction to make that a sustainable 1, 2, 3 FTEs within my property management frontline. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. And just quickly, so I'm welcome to take more tax credit questions or more rental housing questions. Another type of rental housing we have now is manufactured homes, and Compass is 75% owned, 25% rental, and we're landing mostly replacement homes and home ownership opportunities. We just landed 10 rental homes last year, and we have 15 more, mostly replacements for homeowners or new homes to purchase here through grants from the state, largely home funding through the state. We bought this with state money. We're the first nonprofit in the state to wholly own a manufactured home community. This is very different than what's happening at Hillside right now. We've helped them navigate this process, but Hillside in the town of Dryden is trying to purchase the residents, a co-op model. We don't do that model. We definitely support it, so we've connected them to folks who could help them. We own and we are the landlord here, but it is very different from tax credit housing. And it's been a journey, how different it is from other types of housing, but we are very proud of it. And also right on the north side of Trumansburg, so you can hit Village Grove in this when you come out for a tour. I'll take you on both. This just gives some context to resident services here. We are more and more considering ourselves a trauma-informed organization. We just did another training yesterday. We did a training last year and have a series of trainings to follow this year, and that's for all frontline staff, especially. We're really trying to increase resident engagement. That this year will mean that a resident joins our board. We have not had a resident on our board for quite some time. So that is in the works, as well as a resident advisory committee. We have robust feedback tools with all of our residents, but we have been working really hard to reduce eviction and strengthen those relationships. And so to the extent that we can promote housing stability, I believe that turns on being resident-centered and residents feeling like they have a voice in their living environment. And so we're really setting up a lot of structure to do that. And like I said, Claire, who was our social worker in Ithaca, resident services coordinator, works regularly on food security, hoarding, and ancillary issues that come up with hoarding, pest infestation, housekeeping challenges, transportation challenges. She's regularly holding events, meetings, one-on-one meetings to discuss issues like this. And really the goal is to keep people housed, because these are things that can get in the way of that and cause certainly issues in households. And so that is always our goal, is to keep as many people housed as possible. Any questions on that?
I mean, I think you're one of the providers that does a really good job. I don't want to diminish the work of others, but I think the work that you all do in the resident service area is why you're sort of standout in this space, because you really do take a trauma-informed, human-centric approach to
We're trying.
rental, which is not always the easiest mindset to instill in people that like bricks and sticks and, those kind of things. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the example that you set for the rest of the community.
Thank you. I would say we always informally did it over the years, especially before I was with INHS, but now we're really trying to formalize it. We're really trying to make sure we're training for it and we're meeting people where they're at. That's what I like to say. We need to meet people where they're at. We never make assumptions about the roads people have traveled, and we meet them where they're at. And that means we need to train for a whole set of skills that was, I think, implied prior to COVID, but now it's really clear, right? Coming out of COVID and with the income stratification that we continue to see in our country, and now the erosion of food security, healthcare, transportation. I mean, these are things that make it very difficult for people to pay even our reduced rents, right? And to feel stable. So these are just a few of our projects either almost in construction. We're calling the Varnadil Creekside Commons now, and that will start construction here. We're a little bit delayed by a few items, but we should start construction by mid-year. It's on the corner of Dryden and Freeze Road. All of our projects are roughly around 50 units. The Lucy is the project we put in for application last year. It did not get funded. That is named after our co-founder, Lucy Brown. It is a senior housing project, which is very difficult to get funded in this environment. Unfortunately, the state does not prioritize outright senior housing, and so we are finding creative ways for it to compete and score. And one of those ways was to meet the dual need for daycare as well as housing in this community, especially senior housing. And that is all one bedrooms with the range of 30 to 80% area median income. Just so folks know, 80% of area median income for one person is about $60,000-ish in this county. And we'll have an LGBTQ affirming focus. We hope to be the first senior project upstate to have that focus. Nobody will be excluded. It just means that we will be radically inclusive in everything we do and plan there. Which I think is very appropriate for Ithaca to be the first community to have a project like that. Downstate has had one for a few years, and there's a specific pot of money at the state that we are going after to get this, and we're really, really proud of that. Polaris is our deal in the city of Auburn, building on our successful delivery of Wheat Street, which was located in the village of Cayuga, 500 plus person village, just 10 miles west of Auburn on the lake. So developing more of a concentration of properties, Seneca Falls, Auburn, and surrounds. That's going to be a family housing project, and Unity House will be our partner there on our ESHI units for developmentally and intellectually disabled folks. These are all tax credit projects.
So the Creekside Commons, we're looking at that at Freeze Road Freeze Road elevation?
Yeah, so the great thing is that we'll have 6 community housing trust homes on the frontage on Dryden Road, and then with the topography of the site, the 3 other buildings, which are 3 and 2 story, will be below that frontage, right? Because of the topography of the site, it will head down towards the river, although not in a floodplain, and really your eye will probably meet the CHT single family homes first, which will really fit in with the hamlet surrounding,
right.
And we really love that about this project.
Well, let's see if you can finish before the Freeze Road Bridge reopens.
That's our challenge. And to the extent that where we can, we include homeownership, right? So 210 Hancock has homeownership, Founders Way has homeownership, Village Grove has homeownership. In Tompkins County, where we can co-locate homeownership, we do. I love that our rental residents can look out of a building and say, that is for me someday. I want to be a homeowner too. We have a robust Section 8 to homeownership program with both TCIDA and IHA, the voucher providing agencies here. And we really work hard to make that dream possible for people who make less than $60,000 a year in this county.
Is there any opportunity for a condo type structure? Or is that just because of New York State challenges? That's just a model that's not affordable to pursue?
I don't think it's not affordable. I think it's the laws surrounding condo structures. Ryan Benz is a developer who's just delivered a condo structure with AHOP money, which we use for our CHT in Syracuse. And I do hope to meet with him soon to talk about that because it is such a challenging structure to embrace. That is really the reason you don't see more condos in Tompkins or any other county across New York State. So it's something that's in the back of our mind that we want to continue to look at, but legally it is very, very difficult. Yeah.
Iris?
I was going to ask, I'm in the Bell Sherman South Hill, District 3 in the city of Ithaca, and we have a lot of residents who are seniors who are still in these big homes, right, and don't have a good alternative. So curious, I'm excited to hear about the Lucy. That sounds like a great option. Are there other projects that you think might be on the horizon that would be sort of senior focused, 1 and 2 bedroom, accessible, but still like sort of in the downtown area so people don't have to move away from the amenities and friends they're used to being in?
This is we own 2 other exclusively senior projects. I will say demographically, 40% of our portfolio is occupied by folks over 50. I hate to include myself in this category now, but I am aging in place. We just purchased a ranch home for that reason, right? Like people move in with us in their 50s and they stay. Right? And so we have a lot of seniors co-locating in family housing because the state is not prioritizing senior housing for funding. And rightfully so, the priority has been housing the unhoused, right? This is why you see so many LIHTC projects, 70% of LIHTC projects co-locate with ESHI funding to make sure we're moving people out of being unhoused into service-enriched permanent housing. So you have to score with a senior project, you really have to meet a number of other objectives. On the Lucy, what we've done is we're in the DRA area. Whether we get a DRI or not, we have a local priority to develop the State Street corridor. That gets us points on the application. We have childcare on the first floor. That gets us points on the application, right? You have to be very creative to get a senior housing deal funded anywhere in upstate New York, and there isn't the priority that there should be, in my opinion, given the number of boomers retiring right now.
Right.
And so we will continue to turn over every rock to make this possible because we are a senior housing provider, just when you look at the demographics of our portfolio. And what we have happening right now, Village Grove is a really good example. We have many, many older folks living there who have consciously co-located in family housing. It's not easy. Kids run around family housing, right? Large families make noise above you. It does create a set of challenges property management wise, which we are adept at now and which Claire spends a lot of time on. But it's tough, right? So we do need more exclusive senior housing. And I hate to say this formally, don't quote me on it, but I really do feel like it's over time going to be easier to provide that in areas outside of Ithaca than in.
Well, that was part of the question.
Yeah, because we have such a relentlessly high unhoused population here, that is going to continue to be a priority, and making sure we have providers who know how to do that well, I think should continue to be the priority, including us and holding us to account. But one of the things we are looking at is the balance of the town in Tompkins County, right? And then we run up against infrastructure issues, right? So making sure that we're planning for all of those things to make development as easy as possible. I was so happy to see Southworks get the grant that they need to make that, their work possible there. We really have to think about lining those things up and making sure that if we are locating senior housing there, that it has all the amenities it needs for people to not be isolated.
Yeah,
that's one of the great things about our Breckenridge project. It's nearly half senior citizens, even though it's a senior project right off the Commons. People don't have cars there.
Yeah.
They really can live a really wonderful life, even if they're working part-time. We had someone there for ages who worked at the Cornell store 1 block away, right? Like, it's a really beautiful thing when you can locate it well, really.
Yeah, so with the Freeze Road project in Varno, is that going to be, I know there's a bus that goes on Dryden?
The bus stop is literally at the project.
At the spot. Is there going to be a need, do you think, ultimately for more frequent routes, as we see and people needing to, get there sort of, if they go to work or if they want to go shopping and sort of in these times, or is that a concern also for Village Grove in Tewksbury?
I think it is a challenge at Village Grove that the bus is really set on a commuter schedule,
Okay.
right? However, people can walk. The SureSave is on the edge of walkability,
Yeah.
right? But people do walk to the school and SureSave, and they do walk to downtown there. A lot of folks at Village Grove are younger and have cars. And the elderly folks can walk, and some of them have cars as well. That is definitely a more car-centric property, right? I think I would want to continue discussions with you about TCAT and bus schedules in this time. This is one of those things, right? We are in a resource-constrained time, right? And so making holistically projects work with all these other funding sources that are constrained right now is tough. And so it does amplify the need to locate projects in the correct places, right? It's hard. It's really hard.
Kate, I appreciate the time,
Yeah.
but we are at that time, but I'm going to let Mike take us away.
Well, it's an off-topic question,
I love off-topic
and
questions.
it's not a question.
Wouldn't
I actually
expect anything less from you,
answered.
Mike.
Okay.
But I'd love to hear your input on kind of affordable housing in the city of Ithaca. We've had two projects we've had a lot of difficulty with. And I would just, at some point, like your take, obviously not now, on what was done wrong there and how do we not have that happen again? Because you seem to have a lot of units with people that have financial challenges,
Yeah.
other challenges, and yet you do not seem to have the difficulty. And I don't know why that is. I would like to know why that is. I'm sure there's an answer to it.
Yeah.
And it's probably a longish answer.
Yeah.
That's fine too.
Yeah, I'd be happy to
You would
discuss
kind of
that
be the
more.
go-to, I would think, just from what you're saying.
Yeah, and I never want to, I think if you know me personally and professionally, I never want to sit here and not admit that we have, during COVID, we struggled, right? We forgave $1 million of rent during COVID, right? And probably we're only able to continue to function because of our PPP loan, right? That was forgiven of over $1 million. This is the refrain in our office in all of our lines of business is that this is not getting easier, right? This is work that, as big picture, as folks who are living on the margins financially are experiencing more and more scarcity, right? Intentionally right now. Food stamps are probably the biggest example. We're gonna see people losing food stamps because they're not meeting the need to qualify under the new regs, or the challenges they have with that, right? And so it requires a skill set and a willingness to constantly iterate and learn and innovate. And that is very hard to do in a resource-constrained environment as a nonprofit, but we are doing it. We're gonna continue to do it. We're gonna continue to meet those challenges head on. I personally, I like to say I'm obsessed with property management. I grew up as a developer in this industry, but meeting the needs of folks in our community is, absolutely one of the things that is most important to us. I will say that in the recent crisis we have transitioned 15 households into our portfolio from that crisis. So we already had about 3 in process, and we moved 11 within 7 days. Keys in hands, rapid approval of files, which is not an easy thing to do in our industry. So we will continue to meet the needs in all ways that we can in partnership in the community. But it is not easy. And I do think, I will say, we enjoy being locally accountable, right? So if there is an issue at a property, I'm there in 5 minutes. I have senior staff who are there in 5 minutes, right? A corporate accountability for us is very important and meaningful. Sometimes my property management is like, maybe tell them to call me, not you. And that is a challenge from how hands-on I am, right? But to the extent that we are always willing to show up and be there. That is something that we benefit from having our headquarters here, and frankly has been a challenge for us in the balance of our service area. So my head of property management today is up in the village of Cayuga, outside of Auburn. And that's part of it, right? Is that you have to know exactly what's going on at your properties at all times. So as an example, I get monthly reports on EMS and police activity at all of our properties, in Ithaca and outside, and we study that. I could present a whole study on that to you. You really have to be willing to be in the weeds, in the data, and develop creative responses when something is going sideways, and to center human beings in the process, right? Coming out of COVID, if we didn't learn that lesson, shame on us, right? And there is a special balance between centering human beings and accountability that really needs to be perfected if you're going to be seriously in this work. So I'm happy to talk more details if you want offline.
And Kate, you have a fairly robust application screening, process before placing a tenant, right? Part of that work on the front end, trying to understand what different needs are or things like that. That's an important piece to your process and success.
Something to point out is that we're all governed by HCR compliance, and they set the rules for that, right? So we are not able to deny anyone for eviction, for example, at a past property, or owing money for eviction. Something I want to be really clear about is that we practice harm reduction when it comes to eviction. That means I'm going to do everything I can to keep someone housed. Just recently, we've come through 6 months of a lot of this work, and we were able to stabilize 50 plus households to the tune of almost, this is still in flux, we're still receiving checks from cases that were started last year, and those checks come from Catholic Charities, DSS, Village at Ithaca, the Medicaid 115 money, which is very, very important right now to keeping people housed in the community. Almost $200,000, right? That keeps, more than 50 people housed instead of sending them through the eviction court system. The one thing I do want folks to understand here is that you cannot access any of those funds to catch people up unless you begin a formal eviction process. I wish, if I had my dream, it would be that I could access those supports on a 5-day balance due letter, which is just what we send internally to say, hey, you're behind this much, let's get you caught up. We actually have to hire our lawyer and proceed with a 14-day, which is the beginning of the formal legal process for any of those agencies to get engaged to catch someone up, which can be harmful, in my opinion. And so those are discussions. I'm doing actually a study on this. I'm hiring someone to come in and really do a deep dive on this data to formally present to you the numbers and the number of households we were able to stabilize. Now, some of these folks may immediately fall behind again, but the goal is to really look clearly at what the challenges are and to stabilize folks if we can stabilize them. Back to your question, the state sets these rules. So, for example, the only 2 criminal backgrounds that we can automatically deny on, are sex offender status. You are not allowed to live in LIHTC housing if you are a registered sex offender, or meth production in your home. Those are the only 2 outright denials that you can make. Now, you can make a case to the state, and there's a very long process, right? That is, I think, thoughtful, right? But it is very time consuming if there is something else that causes you concern in a file review, but you have to do a background check on everybody. That is a non-negotiable for us. So we take the time to thoughtfully approach all of that. And then now that we have an internal resident services person, if we see something and someone doesn't come with the supports that they perhaps need, we will automatically schedule a visit or a contact with Claire to make sure folks, are getting what they need. For an elder in the community, it might be like, hey, do you need to sign up for Meals on Wheels right now? Are you plugged into that resource? She just did a ride around with with that team to get more resources. And that's the kind of stuff we're trying to be proactive about now instead of reactive, you know?
Great.
Yeah.
Well, Kate, I appreciate you taking the time and the time to thoughtfully explain, and also the time that you put into this work. You know I probably speak for my colleagues when, please express to your staff the debt of gratitude we have as we try to for all of our nonprofit partners that work in these fragile, delicate, funding dependent, lot of red tape and regulation sectors. So really appreciate the true professionals that you have on your team, and just the compassion and care that you bring to your residents. It's definitely meaningful and noticed throughout our community, so thank you.
Thank you so much. And if I haven't, said it explicitly, thank you for all your support through the CHDF and other supports that the county provides us with. It makes these communities possible. So we are indebted to you as well. Thank you.
Well, thanks. Well, speaking of CHDF, next up on deck, we have our planning folks.
Problem anytime.
And let's see, we have David West with us, and also Shauna Stevenson. And we have a number of resolutions. And so I guess, Shauna, I'll turn it over to you. If you want to maybe give a high level of all of them, and then we can kind of work through each of them, if that makes sense.
For all the resolutions, or the four?
They're all relatively
similar.
The first two, sorry, let's do the first two.
Yeah, sure. So good morning, everybody. So these two resolutions, 13989 and 13990, I believe, are related to a Community Housing Development Fund award from round 24. This is pertaining to the Compass redevelopment project, phase 2. Kate was just speaking about this in her presentation with INHS. And this project had received an award recommendation from the Program Oversight Committee for a total of $120,000 and $120,135. Of that amount, Cornell University committed $80,000. The IDA contribution from the Workforce Housing Policy Fund contributed $35,000, and Tompkins County committed $5,135 in this process in round 24. So these two resolutions make it possible to authorize the funding disbursement from the county-owned portion of that, which is the IDA contribution and the Tompkins County contribution. And the first resolution is a seeker negative declaration of environmental impact, and that's concurring with the Village of Trumansburg Zoning Board of Appeals negative declaration on the project. And that's needed so that the funding can be authorized by the Tompkins County Legislature in the second resolution that's related to this.
Great, so if I could have a mover and a seconder for a negative declaration for authorization to disbursement of Community Housing Development Fund, CHDF, award for Compass redevelopment phase 2, ID 13989. I saw John as a mover, Mike as a seconder. Any discussion on the negative declaration? Iris?
Yeah, thank you so much. I was curious about the impact on human health, which is page 9 of 10, packet page 42, if that's helpful. It says that there would be an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants, but then it's not elaborated, so I guess it's considered to be a small impact, but are you aware of what that impact might be?
I'm finding it on the page, but if David, you have an answer to that, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, so this is a common thing with the Part 2 forms that you'll find there was something that triggered. So in this case, I think there was a closed spill record related to a past spill that had been cleaned up. So that triggered clicking that there could be something, and then they review each of those lines below, the lettered lines, and found for each of those that there was no or small impact. So there's the potential.
What was the
The
spill?
first line, the top line, creates the requirement to then go through the later ones, and then you look at each one individually. So in the Part 1, they referenced DEC cleanup that had been completed.
So when I looked into it, DEC has a basically a web app you can use to search by number, and it was there were no units attributed, but just said it was a kerosene spill on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the negative declaration resolution? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. If I could have a mover and a seconder for the resolution authorizing to disperse county funds to the Community Housing Development Fund, CHDF for Round 24 Award ID number 13990. Moved by Iris, seconded by John. Any discussion on this, excuse me, on this award? Iris?
Hi. I'm curious about these 7 for sale manufactured home units. Do we have information about the sort of quality or type of manufactured homes that these will be? Any sort of sustainability measures?
Yeah, so we did get an update recently from Ben Carver, who's managing the project, and they are 1 to 2 bedroom units. They're new manufactured homes. As for the green qualities of the construction, I know that these projects need to go through Tompkins County energy recommendations through the seeker process. And more specifically, they're outlined in the application. I can look up more information if you'd like a follow-up.
I'm just curious, like, are they going to be fully electric? Do we know that, for example?
It's not something I know off the top of my head.
Well,
They are.
they are. Awesome. Okay, thank you.
To a HUD code, which is more green than it's ever been.
Yay.
So what I like to say is that these are not your grandma's,
Right.
manufactured home. So
I'm so sorry,
Kate,
the
sorry, if
microphone.
you can use them, yeah. Thanks.
what I like to say is these are not your grandma's manufactured home in terms of being built to the new HUD code, which is much greener than it's ever been, and having improved the water, sewer, and electric. We spent $10 million acquiring and renovating the systems at the property. So now, for example, your electric hookup can entail a heat pump, whereas before the service wouldn't allow for that. So all of that has been set up and approved for. I don't know particularly if these come with a heat pump, but they are electric. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Any other questions on this resolution? No? All right, all those in favor? Great, that passes unanimously.
May I make one small announcement too?
I can't wait.
Just round 26 of the Community Housing Development Fund is open to applications until May 1st. That was released March 23rd. So more information is available on our website under Planning and Sustainability.
Thank you for that. Next up, we have a resolution, 2026 Fair Housing Resolution, ID number 13993. If I could have a mover for that, please. Moved by Iris, seconded by John. Thank you. So David or Shauna, I'll turn it over to.
I'm happy to take it.
Thank
So
you.
April is National Fair Housing Month. It's a month that communities around the country look at what fair housing protections mean. And it's a reminder that we have both state and federal laws that protect people from discrimination in housing for a variety of protected classes, which are outlined in this resolution. The resolution helps us stay in compliance for particularly our community development block grant funded projects, which require certain steps to be taken through the year, affirmatively furthering fair housing and making sure that everyone in our community understands their obligations, as well as covering some bases internally. So that's what this does for April. So happy Fair Housing Month.
Before Iris asks her one question per resolution, I'm going to go to Adam, and then I have a question, and then I'll get to Iris. Go ahead, Adam.
I'm just wondering, who's our designated fair housing officer?
That was also my question.
Corsa.
Yes, so one of the resolves of this resolution mentions that Corsa is the official designated fair housing officer at this time.
Okay, oh, the last one, further, the county administrator or their designee is appointed. Of course, do you have a designee?
For now, it will be me, and we will not need to pass on the resolution when we designate somebody else.
This gives you the authority to do that. Yeah, of course. All right, Iris, go get him.
Thanks. So this references a 1992 fair housing plan?
Yes.
Do we have anything more updated? And if so, why not?
We do not. I think it'd be a fantastic idea to put on the budget for next year.
Is that something that we contract out for?
It's something that we could contract out for. We have a great relationship with CNY Fair Housing that helps a lot of communities in our region do that.
It just seems like we're using data from the 1990 census, and that is, I'm sure things have shifted. I hope things have shifted in some
Things
ways.
have shifted. I think that the actions that are in that plan are still very valid and worth reaffirming and continuing to do. And also, it's a requirement for our grant follow-up when we have a grant that we have an adopted plan. So we want to make sure that we have good paperwork backing that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
David, have you hit your first full year with being back with the county?
Not yet. Soon.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I also want to remind my colleagues too that the sort of the housing component previously was a lot of work that really Megan did, and then with the addition of Shauna, and then now we're building out I think a team and a real focus area within our Department of Planning and Sustainability, and I know with sort of the housing snapshot work and then the housing strategy this year, right, that I'm sure there's a lot of things on the catch-up, cleanup list that there's only so much staff resource for. But if it's good to know that the sort of actions and desired outcomes of that plan are still relevant. But if it is something that we need to have a conversation around or leading up to the budget season, I guess I would look to members of this committee to welcome such a conversation. If one needs to be had at this level, if it's a purely staff level recommendation, by all means, make sure you hit Corsa up when you submit your budget. That was for you, Katie, if you're listening. Any other questions on this resolution? No? All right, all those in favor? Great. That's unanimous. So thank you very much for that. And then the next item we have is a budget adjustment, Planning and Sustainability Department, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Award Healthy Homes for ID number 13988. And if I could have a mover, please. Moved by Iris, seconded by Mike Sigler. David?
Sure. This is a program that, as Kate was mentioning earlier, the county applies for funds from New York State and then works with INHS to provide home repair services to low-income homeowners around the county. We did estimate at the budget time last year how much we thought would be left. Those funds need to be moved into a different account to be able to be expended. It's we get money in and we put it out, so it's a zero basis change, but we're changing which accounts they're in because we have a special account specifically for CDBG expenditures.
Okay. So essentially we had $293,820 that was unspent in the prior budget and is just being rolled forward into this budget year.
We actually put it in a different, we put it in the budget, but it needs to move from one account to another account.
Got it, okay. I see Megan.
If there are any more questions.
Oh, okay.
That's essentially it. The 2026 budget was the first time the county was line itemizing grants within the department budgets. And after conversations with our finance colleagues, they would like this not in the department budget, but to be budgeted within the CD account, essentially. And so this is essentially moving the money out of our budget over to that account.
Okay. Okay. right, just hold. As we get into budget boot camp, I think, which Norma scheduled, we'll learn all about the different account types. But if anybody has any more specific questions, we can get those answered. But these are standard routine procedures. Any additional conversation around this resolution? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Great, that passes unanimously as well. For the planning and sustainability, sort of housing-centric folks, any additional items or things to share from the department?
There's one more small thing to share. We also, in addition to the Community Housing Development Fund, we have our Municipal Housing Affordability and Infrastructure Grant, HASIG, which is also open. And this is a rolling grant throughout the year that municipalities can get between $5,000 and $10,000 to do projects that improve the affordability of housing throughout the county. So we're reaching out to our community partners, but as you're talking to people in communities around the county, if they have great ideas for a project that could be covered with that amount, be sure to connect them with us.
And this, we have 20,000
Yes.
set aside in that fund, and I know in 1 year's past, we did award more than we originally had budgeted for, which I think was an exception based on 3 very qualified presentations and requests. It would also be good, and maybe we could look at this and you could tell me what meeting this makes the most sense for, is maybe to get an update on the progress of maybe the last 2 years of prior grants, if that's not too much of a project for you all, just to report back on the effectiveness of that project, because I know it is meaningful to our municipal partners.
Great.
Okay. Megan?
And I'll just say on the infrastructure theme, you may recall that the legislature selected the Hanshaw Village Manufactured Home Park as our application for the county infrastructure grant this year, so that we got the go-ahead to proceed to application from the state, and that application is in. So we're hoping by around July, if they kind of follow the pattern of last year, to be able to bring some good news to you.
Great, and then on the previous year's applicant was selected was the Southworks project, which kind of opened up their sewer capacity to expand their sort of initial phase of development. Any progress updates or challenges or?
Yeah, I will say the challenge is good news because the amount of affordable housing has now doubled at the site and is using the other form of tax credit, the 4% that Kate mentioned is different than the 9%. That indicates a lot of support from Homes and Community Renewal. That's very exciting, but it means multiple affordable housing buildings, and that shifted infrastructure around, combined with good news that the town of Ithaca was successful in getting some pro-housing communities grant money to help with the project as well. So the infrastructure our grant is paying for has shifted from the town of Ithaca side of the property to the city of Ithaca side of the property. So we're amending things with ESD right now, and technically they will be going to their board probably this year because we don't technically have an award contract yet. So once that has happened, I'll be coming back to you all with the resolution to accept the grant, along with the seeker concurrence as well.
Great, thank you. Anything else? No? All right, great, thank you, everybody. Appreciate the updates. All good news. All right, Nick Hemmel, Tourism Director, Planning and Sustainability. We have several items. Anything before we jump into the resolutions that you want to share?
I'll just quickly mention we have a open notice of funding availability for organizations interested in participating in the 2027 room tax budget. That is available on the tourism program website, and the deadline is April 21st. So if you have an idea that you think belongs in the tourism program budget, please let us know.
Great, thank you. All right, let's do this. Let's jump right in. We'll do the award of the Spring 2026 Tourism Advancement Grant. That's ID number 13977. If I could have a mover Moved by Iris, seconded by Mike Sigler. Nick, if you want to maybe highlight this grant program?
Yeah, for sure. The goal of this grant program is to drive overnight visitation to Tompkins County through events, exhibits, marketing campaigns, and similar types of projects. We have, for this year, budgeted $85,000. The committee reviewed there's actually 20 requests for that, and got $2 requested for every dollar available. And are recommending awarding $81,500 out of that. We had one application withdraw after the committee recommended it. So yeah, a lot of strong projects in here. Happy to answer questions about anything you see.
Mike?
I'm just going to abstain from this one, just so you know.
Okay, and the reason is the professional...
Yeah, my billboard job, so hopefully they'll buy billboards to promote it.
I'm pretty sure one of the projects does include billboards, so.
So what I'm going to maybe ask, and I'll ask our clerk, I might ask that I be swapped out as the seconder, if that's okay. Just so that we have
even better,
two people that are voting on it with one recusal. Iris, the question, sorry.
This is just for the first one, right?
This is just the first one.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about what the criteria were for allocating the resources. It seemed like, based on the comments, something about overnight guests specifically. Is that a main focus rather than people spending money sort of on, retail, restaurants and that kind of thing?
Yeah, the primary focus is driving overnight visitation to Tompkins County, particularly when we have time of availability, when we have capacity in our hotels and restaurants and the like. So that's why you'll see, for instance, one of the fully funded events is the Winter Village Music Festival, which happens in January. So yeah, things like that happen off-season are generally preferred.
And can you tell me what the Old Greenie Fringe Fest is?
Yeah, so the Fringe Festival, as I understand it, is sort of a series of performances, variety of different performances, musical and other, over a course of several days. There's a Rochester Film Fringe Festival that I believe is kind of similar in aspect to this, and Old Greenie is this idea that there is some sort of monster living in Kegel Lake that they are playing on. So, yeah.
And the expected attendance is very high for that.
I agree.
And this is new, right? This is
the first year.
Okay, and that's going to be in the winter?
That is coming right up. That one is in April, I believe. Which page is it? Oh yeah, there you are. Yeah, April 27 to May 3rd. So.
Oh, that's very soon. Okay, thank you. And then can you tell me about the Hammerstone School? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, they do carpentry education projects primarily for women. They are doing a marketing campaign to boost registrations for those workshops. The nice thing about this is a tourism activity is it works year-round. It brings people here for multi-day visits, and they typically bring their partners with them. So there's pretty big uptake in terms of spending and market related to this.
This is a newer grant applicant to this program, but in prior years, I think last year was very successful in their iteration of bringing a number of student participants to their program, and have done a really incredible job on advancing female presence in the carpentry and trades, and providing some great things. And I was first a little like, how does this fit? But then when you really understand the program, they do a real exceptional job of attracting from the area and truly creating overnight, like you can tie overnight stays to their activity. Some of these other programs are helpful in attracting overnight guests, but also just sort of add to the richness and vibrancy of the community, so that when folks are here, there's a higher likelihood to return, or there's greater satisfaction when visiting. And I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to the selection committees for all of these grant applications, because they do really pour, having sat on several of these over one period of time or another, they really do spend a lot of time and are very thoughtfully critical, but also helpful in the feedback that they provide to the application process. So this definitely gets, I think, a lot of scrutiny, and is really a thoughtful approach. And I think the grant programs in STPB are probably some of the strongest grant review process, that, if that's a complete sentence, that we have. Nick really does a strong job shepherding that, but the selection criteria and participants are very strong in their knowledge base in these areas.
Yeah, I was curious, like, the expected attendance is not the overnight.
No, correct. This is provided by the applicant.
Got it.
So you'll see a range of values for folks, who have had events in the past, who have a documented sort of track record. They're typically on pace with that. The Old Greenie Festival, this is the first time they're doing this, so it's more of a guess than a.
Sure. And is there sort of a metric where you're tying the amount of money awarded to the projected number of overnight guests, or is it like a ratio, or is there not a formula?
There's not a formula per se. We do look at that. If there's something that seems to be on the extreme end of that, it'll flag it for a conversation within the committee. Yeah. Okay.
I was curious too, because the Apple Fest I know is really big, but like they're only getting 60% of what they asked for, and is that just because we know we have other sources of funding? And
I think there's a mix of things there, right? It's a at capacity weekend, right? The marginal ability to add new guests during that weekend is basically nil, and there's also the ability to get other sponsors for an event of that magnitude.
Got it. Thank you.
So I think a lot of it too goes into past performance of some of these organizations, and like Reggae Fest, like there's our hospitality partners, there's a marketable difference in influx of people that are here for that specific reason, or the basketball program, things that are attracting true participants from outside, where again, something like the Apple Fest, it's maybe a day trip, right? It's somebody coming down, right? Or maybe they're staying for the weekend, but it's already a pretty full weekend for the community. But all very good questions. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay, all those in favor? That's 3. Any opposed? That's 0. Any abstentions? That's 1, Mr. Sigler. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. We have the award of the Spring 2026 Community Celebrations Grants. I'll go, that's doc ID 13978. I'll go ahead and move that if I could have a seconder. John?
Sure.
Thanks.
I need to recuse myself from this one because I'm on the board of Ithaca Children's Garden.
Okay.
I don't actually have to recuse, so I'll be okay.
Great.
I don't say anything.
I was worried about getting 3 people.
I understand.
So thank you. All right. So we have 1 recusal from Iris based on being a member of a board of an applicant. So any discussion or questions around this? This is part of the STPB's mission to provide enrichment to sort of overall community level of life and well-being, and it's a way to help towns and smaller organizations put on some sort of community-focused event that brings folks together around a more smaller area within the community. John or Mike, any questions? Adam, any questions? Mike?
Not really a question, more of a comment. A lot of people would think that this is just for the community, but frankly, the community events drive tourism, because I take people to some of these events. So, and then people really like it, and they keep coming back. So.
Yeah, it definitely does. Again, it adds to the vibrancy, right, of our community. It's in this organization, it's sometimes hard to really have heads and beds. Does it really have an impact? But does it also add to the richness of what makes up Tompkins County and the city of Ithaca and Dryden and Trumansburg and the town and all these, special little places that we have throughout our community as a whole. So that's an excellent point to remember. And it's good to see there's a lot here, Nick.
Yeah, we were checking to see if it was a record number of applications, and sadly it wasn't. We had one cycle a few years ago that had 28. This was 27. So, and of those 27, 23 were recommended for funding.
And it looks like there's a number throughout the community. It's not just isolated into one area or the other.
Yeah, we're happy to see applications from Danby and Groton, Enfield. We really, I think, touch basically every corner of the county here. I hope I'm, not going to put my foot in my mouth and find a piece we missed, but that's, pretty satisfied with the spread of applications.
Any other discussion items? Nope. All right, all those in favor? That's 3. Any opposed? All those abstaining? That's 1. Iris abstaining. All right, so that does pass. And then the next one we have is award of the 2026 Tompkins Outdoor Grant, Doc ID 13979. I'll go ahead and move that if I could have a seconder. Seconded by Iris. Nick, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, sure. The Tompkins Outdoors grants are intended to increase capacity for organizations that provide outdoor recreation, either through maintaining out their spaces or providing programming in Tompkins County. This year we had 7 applications for the grant and 5 were recommended for funding. And a total of $55,000 awarded through this program. So happy to answer questions folks have about the applications or the program itself.
Iris? Don't be, that's okay.
We just have a thing going.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
I was just curious because these seem like heftier awards. Is there a reason why these are larger than the other ones?
Yeah, these are intended to provide operational support for these organizations. They can underwrite staff time or costs sort of to operate the organization and increase their capacity to do their mission.
Certain grant programs have marketing fund specific support. Certain grant programs like ACOD provides overall general operating support. The outdoor grant, to Nick's point, is kind of a put in sort of what you're looking to get done, and the budget process for SCPB, we look at the funding allocation for those, and we'll determine a pot of money to contribute to trying to grow. And this is what, 5 outdoor grants, 5-6 years old?
At most, I think we might have started in 2022.
So relatively newer to try to recognize that people are coming here for outdoor recreation and try to support some of the emerging. When we started, there was really like 1, maybe 2 organizations that were applying for this funding, and we've definitely seen applicant funding grow throughout this area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. We've seen, and I think it's encouraging to see new applicants, even if they're not successful. It's interesting to, hear the ideas that are out there and potentially find other ways we can help them through other grants or other funding sources.
John?
So I think we're on page 71, is that right?
Mm-hmm. We're 77.
77. Okay, well, anyway, back on 71, the subject of that page said the award of the spring 2025 community celebration grants instead of 2026.
Thanks for catching a typo.
Of all the little proofreading things that I identified, I thought that one was a bit significant.
Okay, well, thank you for pointing that out. We can make that correction without issue. Iris?
Did the applicants provide details about how they would use this, or it's just general?
Yes, and in fact, the contracts will describe what the proposed use is and how the funds will be allocated to the organization.
Can you share what the Friends of Stewart Park project was generally?
I believe it had to do with increasing capacity for their maintenance of the park, basically gardening and taking care of the green spaces.
Okay, not like a new project,
No.
say. And what about with the land trust?
They had some projects related to one of their locations. Name escapes me right now, but some trail improvements.
Trail improvements, that's great. No, as a trail runner, I appreciate the folks who do that work. It's really fantastic.
And Nick, to be able to apply for a grant, there's an eligibility requirement, which was one of the issues early on in this grant program, was having enough organizations that were even eligible to apply, but now we're seeing a growth in that area as well.
Yeah, I think folks are self-identifying that they fit this criteria, and that they can get in there. So,
great. Mike, and then
I'm going to vote for it, but this one just seems very vague to me. Like, I get the operational support, but like, I'm looking at some of these guys going, they're doing pretty, I mean, they get big grants. Now, granted, the grants are generally not for operational support, but I just don't know how long, like, a county or even this money will hold off. I mean, why give it to, one community when another group needs operational support as well? I guess, I don't know. I'll just have to look into it deeper, I guess. It just seems hard to support something operationally, because then we're kind of on the hook, not forever for it, or is the goal that, it'd be one thing, for example, if somebody came to us like the Museum of the Earth and said, we need a month to kind of get back on our feet, and then this is our plan going forward and we're okay. That's not really what this is. This is saying we need $19,000 every year for our operations. Or is it we need $19,000 because we want to expand our operations to kind of handle that
it's
issue?
the latter.
It's the latter?
It's really built around capacity building. If they were just saying we are going to do exactly what they did the prior year, it would be a pretty weak application.
Gotcha.
It might get some funding, but it would not be. Yeah.
And when you think of the, $4 million budget that the tourism program has, $55,000 to outdoor recreation, which, I mean, you go anywhere in the world and you say Ithaca and somebody's going to say, oh, it's gorgeous, right? Like, it's outdoor, and Ithaca and Tompkins County are, I think, hand in hand. And so, but personally, I hear your concern, but I think it's also, it's still in its early stages of this grant program. I mean, it's been around long enough that we have solid applications, but we're not funding it to a significant degree. And what we're funding our sort of all arts and culture organizations with is, probably 10x.
The ACAD budget for 2026 is $330,000.
Yeah,
so,
and then that's on top of community
6,
celebrations, the tourism marketing grants, and all those other things. So, I mean, there's definitely a balance of those organizations seeing funds, but this, I think, was a focus to try to grow outdoor tourism and outdoor recreation, and give some of those folks that didn't fit into the arts and culture scene an opportunity to access funds generated by overnight room stays, which a lot of people come to hike and swim. And somebody who makes a living on Cuga Lake, there's no monster. Sorry to kill the community celebration for that group, but it's a safe place to be as long as you follow safe practices while on the water. But there is no monster that lives there. But happy April Fools, everybody. All right, we still have this, Iris.
So I was curious then, to sort of Mike's point, does the STPB set the budget of how the categories for the different 4 million, so how it will be allocated?
Great question. Well, the budget, I mean, the legislature sets the budget. STPB makes a recommendation to the legislature for that budget.
Or how the different, how that amount is split. Okay, I was curious about that, because
ultimately
55,000 out of 4 million actually sounds very small for, as you said.
When you look at the totality of the budget, you'll understand why certain things are. We could probably spend $10 million on the initiatives that would promote tourism in a meaningful way and fund organizations that really need support. We just don't have the room tax revenue to do that. And so I would, to Nick's credit as the shepherd to the process, it is a it is a time-consuming and complex and very thoughtful little tiny piece of the overall county budget. But if you do have questions, I would not wait till we get the budget to review. I would encourage you to engage with the Strategic Tourism Planning Board, which is the third one.
Yeah, third Wednesday.
Third
April
Wednesday.
15th is the next meeting.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Engage early with that committee so that you can really understand what's coming forward.
And we should have a draft budget by our May meeting. And so yeah, the third Wednesday in May, if you want that, mark your calendar for that to get a preview of what's coming.
Okay, thanks. And then last question was just about the Discover Cayuga Lake, the 19,000. Is that a specific project, and what is the project?
That has to do with their boats. They're having a variety of, they're retiring the MV Teal, and they've got a new boat they're commissioning. So that's helping that process along.
No more teal boat?
Teal's going away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Where's it going?
Where's it going? Probably, good question.
It's swallowed up by that green monster.
I don't think it's going to be floating anytime soon, if that's the short answer.
Just sink it and make it a dive location. Just saying.
Anyways, we're going to go ahead and call for a vote. There's no abstentions on this one? Great. All those in favor? Great, that passes unanimously. Nick, any other updates?
Nope.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next up on deck, late addition to the agenda, but always happy to see you, Chris Spahn, Director of Workforce Development, with an April 2026 update. And Chris, the only reason you're last on the agenda, again, is not because it's a favorite spot for you, but it's just because you were the last addition to the agenda.
Yeah, no, it's...
So we will make sure we cycle you through and rotate committee presentations or department presentations as best we can.
The team totally hooked it up. Thank you, everybody. Jordan, Taylor, Greg. Good to see everyone. I was going to do an April Fool's joke, but I don't have time for that now. So we'll hop into some quick points here. So 5 points. So maybe 6. So grants and funding. Last week I went to the Appalachian Regional Commission regional workshop that was hosted at the Ithaca Downtown Conference Center. So we are actually part of the Appalachia region, and they have federal grant money every year. So we learned more about that program, and I am interested in pursuing a grant that would help with people who have substance use issues, substance use disorders, SUD. So basically, we're part of the recovery ecosystem for somebody, so it would be a comprehensive network of everybody, us as a workforce partner being the final step. So that's what we're brainstorming around. The grant is not out yet, so stay tuned. Youth Build, we saw a Youth Build grant that was out for another federal program that was out for like a month. We did not have time to put anything together for that. I did talk with Kate, who was our previous speaker earlier, and she was very interested in collaborating on that in the future. So that has to do with putting young people on a path to real careers through hands-on training and education. So we already have the right players in place for next year when it comes around. I'm also going to talk to a grantee who's in Missouri who can provide me some tips on the actual application itself. So I used to live in Missouri, so using those Missouri connections, St. Louis, so good stuff. Workforce Investment Program, we had submitted a congressionally directed spending application through the county to provide worksite experiences for people in tourism and hospitality, government, construction trades. So the idea is to get adults a 6 to 8 week experience where they can gain experience. Also, part of the government too. So the thought is they get that experience and hopefully they're employable, or at worst case, they had 6 to 8 weeks of experience and they had a good job opportunity there. So we're keeping our fingers crossed around that program, and of course, supportive services would be tied into that program. We also have a grant related to green energy with the state. So right now we're doing an OJT at Hammerstone, so the Women's Carpentry Program, and then we have one going on at Reuse. And we are exploring a collaboration with GIAC around a solar panel project they are doing this spring. So that'd be a collaboration of CCE, myself, our department, City of Ithaca, GIAC. So we may have funding for that also. And then we're still looking everywhere, every left field option out there. So if I hit the Powerball or Mega Millions, I will definitely support the county and that funding. So we'll see what happens, Greg.
Great, well, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Not April Fool's joke.
Chris Vaughn, Tompkins County benefactor.
It's on the record. I just want the center of government named after me, so. So Southern Tier Regional Business Services Team, we had a meeting last week, so I co-chair that group with the Department of Labor, so it connected workforce professionals, economic developers, community partners, and our highlight was the Southworks project, which Iris did a great job at describing. So we also took a field trip out to there and saw the space, so that's the largest project in our lifetimes while we're here. So we're very exciting, and thanks for coming, Iris. Iris always has great questions too, so gotta always be on your toes for those. Thankfully, I didn't have to answer that one. So next, leadership development. I just graduated from the county leadership training program, so myself and our 2 deputies, Ty and Diane, also completed it, along with probably 20 other county employees. So it was meant for anyone interested in leadership or in a leadership position. So Samantha Almendinger, our county training and development coordinator, did a great job at organizing those 8 or 9 different workshops. We did our Myers-Briggs test, and then we kind of analyzed those of how your personality type meshes with other people. Conflict resolution, Ruby went over HR policies, best practices. So it was a great experience, all made possible through the investments of the Tompkins County legislators. So Samantha's been doing a great job in that position, and I think we should continue to invest into similar programs like this, because it's definitely helping me a lot also, and then also just future leaders in the county. So a lot of people were very happy with that experience. Almost done. We had a workforce board meeting last week. We did talk about just cause employment and the minimum wage study. So if you want to talk about that next month, more than happy to. 5, the college retention project that we're working on. I talked with Adam about that. So he's going to provide support to me wherever I may need it. Not sure where it's going to look, but we met and talked. And I did not get a chance to meet with Peggy from the Chambers and Paula from IC. She had to, I had to cancel on everybody due to another meeting. So we are rescheduling that for this month, but we're all still actively talking about that project. And then SNAP ABOD update. So, it's going to take 2 minutes. I got to share my screen. I do want to walk through the SNAP ABOD website that's out there so everyone's familiar with it. So there's these new federal work requirements that are out there. So ABOD means able-bodied adult without disability, without dependence. And on March 1st, there are these new work requirements that came out that if you're not exempt, then you have to volunteer or work for X amount of hours. That's a whole big calculation, and that's really dependent on what your benefits are. So I'm not the messenger of like what you should be doing, what constitutes the right guidance. So I'm just going to share with you what you can tell community partners of what to do. So we go to the DSS website, and then at the very top it says able-bodied adults without dependents, and there's this first flyer that says SNAP benefits are changing. So this is what everyone should be following, sharing. I should not be sitting here giving you like what the guidance is, really. I should be directing you to this flyer. So do new work rules apply to me? You scan it, and then this is guidance of what a potential exemption could be. Like you're pregnant, you have a disability, different things like that. But there may be cases where you're not exempt. So this next page, this next QR code leads you to the opportunity website that leads you to volunteer opportunities. So let me go to that page, which is here. Okay, so when you go to Tompkins Opportunity, I would just Google it, Tompkins County Opportunity Map, or it's on that QR. The first step, it shows you, you may be exempt from new work requirements. So what you gotta do, what a person has to do is click it, and you go through the survey. So are you currently receiving SNAP benefits? So I will say yes. And then next, this mouse is moving very slow. Are you 65 or older? So if I am over 65, then I am exempt. And then if I'm not, then the process will just continue on. Like you'll keep going through, The mouse is moving very slow, but I'll show you an example on this.
So close.
Yeah, I don't, nope, now it's, April Fools.
Not something
Yeah,
we're
okay, so
joking
that's not going to
about.
work, but if I clicked yes, it would say you're exempt and you don't have to worry about anything. Okay, so anyways, you can X out of this if you don't want to do that. But, so say if someone needs to get volunteer hours, then they can go to this page and browse opportunities. And there's volunteer opportunities that they click. So partners are all, the community has been great around this. So there's been a working group that's going around. Brittany, our great commissioner, and Cindy from Human Service Coalition, and a lot of other partners are working on this, and this page was put together. So the whole goal is that no one gets left in the dark. They know where to go, because if they're not following these work requirement rules, like you need to be doing these things for more than 3 months. If you're just sitting around not paying attention to anything, ignoring your mail, then you will be off the benefits June 1st. You'll be kicked off the rolls. Essentially, that's not a declaration, but that's kind of the idea behind these work requirement rules. And then if you go back, right next to it is you can post a volunteer opportunity. So your organization can post an opportunity. Workforce Development leads the education and training group. So very soon you will have trainings on this page and potentially jobs. I say we lead it, but it's really, again, a collaboration of partners from all over the place. Chris Kai-Jones from CCE has been great, and so has Carrie Bolton from the Chambers, filling in for me when I can't come to meetings and things like that. So just wanted y'all to be familiar with this process and what's going on, because you're probably hear it in the news or something and you're kind of like, okay, what is that? I don't know. So that's the whole goal. Go to the flyer, follow those steps, because it really starts with the DSS caseworker and the caseload that they have. But if we can do this as a community, I think people won't get lost.
Yeah.
Iris?
How many volunteer hours do they have to put in?
So it really depends. It could range from like 17 to 80 hours.
A month?
Yeah, a month. So it just really depends on your situation. So that's why.
So it's like a sliding?
Yeah, it depends on your type of benefits. And hopefully Brittany's not watching, cringing right now with what I'm saying. But that's why I didn't want to get too much into like the equation. But, you know, I think it's just figuring out, do I need to hit do I qualify or do I not? And then after that, it's figuring out how many hours you need. So it does vary by person. Yeah.
I mean, 20 hours a week is a pretty significant
it is.
commitment.
Absolutely. And you can achieve that through volunteering or some sort of work also to get that. But that is a lot, definitely.
But then is there a risk of falling off the benefits cliff if you work the 20 hours and then you lose?
I think that would be a DSS question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
It is uncharted territory and a challenging time, I'm sure, for many that are trying to navigate a system that is probably being, cooked well, rolled out, and there's probably a lot of unanswered questions. So I think Chris has the right approach. Direct folks to DSS who administers those benefits. And then if there's, job help or job opportunities, obviously Chris and his team can help in that regard. But again, appreciate, Chris, you, one, being a fierce advocate for your department and for those that you serve throughout the community, and then bringing a lot of this stuff to our attention. So thank you again.
No. Thank you, I appreciate it. Like I said, I love those Iris questions. Keep them coming. Sorry if I can't answer them all the time. And then also, it's just gonna be a huge economic hit too, like once people are off SNAP. That's a hit to Wegmans and everybody. So that's something to look out to. We need to figure out this whole process too, because it's, the numbers are crazy. I don't have them, but yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you, Chris. Adina, I did want to just acknowledge that you're here, Deputy County Attorney, right? And just wanted to give you an opportunity if you had anything else to add or if you're good for today.
Thank you so much. No, I'm good for today.
Okay, I didn't want the meeting to pass by without acknowledging that you're here, and thank you for being here for anything that may arise.
I appreciate that.
All right. Next, committee members report. Anything for the good of the order? Okay, seeing none, it is 12:05, and we'll stand adjourned. Appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you.